Genius Brain listeners, this podcast is brought to you by Kickoff. Credit is king, my friend, and if you're trying to build your credit, well, guess what? There's no better way to do it than with Kickoff. For those of you who don't know, Kickoff is the fastest, easiest way to safely jumpstart your credit and get to those goals quicker with no credit check required. Sign up for a monthly plan in minutes and start building credit immediately for as low as $5. What I love about them the most is the auto pay to build credit while I sleep, so I never have to worry about missing a payment. They are the #1 credit building app out there for a reason, and users with credit under 600 increased their score by an average of 30 points in the first month. Join over 1 million people building credit with a Kickoff credit account today. Get your first month for $1. That's 80% off the normal price when you go to getkickoff.com/genius today. That's kickoff without the C. getkickoff.com/genius. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/genius to activate offer. Offer applies to new Kickoff customers. First month only. Subject to approval. Average impact of 30-point increase in first month based on Equifax Vantage Score 3.0. Changes for Kickoff premium customers with starting credit below 600 who made their first on-time payment between January 2021 and March 2024. Payment and credit activity outside Kickoff can have an impact on your credit. Terms and conditions may apply. Offer subject to change. Individuals' results may vary. Can't face the fact that the person that they love has passed away or is going to pass away. And to be honest with you, that pain doesn't really go away. It never has. Anybody who was dear and close to me that has died, whenever I think of them, I feel this knot in my chest, in my heart, in my throat. It just starts to well up. It doesn't go away. It just gets better. And I think that's a good thing, right? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Genius Brain solo podcast edition. How are you? I just came back from Hawaii, literally landed today, recording this right now so we could upload it tomorrow. I am fucking exhausted. Just came in, got a bunch of stuff that, once again, if you've been listening, I'm redoing my place, added a bunch of furniture, but it turns out have a little issue with furniture stores. Did you guys ever notice that if you recently went in to go buy a couch, apparently they don't have couches in stock? What the fuck is that, huh? How are you going to be a couch store and not have fucking couches? Interesting. They're like, hey, it'll be, you could order it. This color here would maybe about 96 days before it gets to you, if you're lucky. Bitch, that's 3 months. Plus 6 days, if I'm lucky, which means it might go to fucking 90 days for a couch. Are you out of your mind? Listen, I don't like adulting, but how have you been? Has everybody been good? Real quick before we start this podcast, like I said, I'm a little deranged right now because I've been in a plane for about 6 hours and cleaning up this place. But if you guys have been following Geo, my lovely sister, she has been going through a lot, and so has Bart. Just a whirlwind of shit happening right now. And if you've been following her and if you have watched her Instagram, you know that recently her older brother passed away, and the man passed away honestly too soon. And if you guys could, if you really do care about her and she has been a part of your life, just to constantly send her a lot of love and words of positivity, because as of right now, she really needs it. We've always talked on this podcast how we just never know when it's our time, and time is very limited on this earth. And I am constantly reminded of it recently in my life. And, when you guys get to this age of being in your mid-30s, in your 40s and 50s and 60s, you are going to see your loved ones start to just, I don't want to say the word disappear, but they will pass away. And it'll be in the most unexpected ways. I'm not talking about old age or anything else like that. I'm talking about just sometimes God takes away these people in your life and you don't know when it's going to happen. And we're never prepared for it. Throughout this week, it's been kind of rough just for a lot of my friends. And I don't know, maybe I'm put into a position in my life where a lot of people kind of lean on me to help them deal with these issues because I've already been through it a lot. And, touching a lot on these topics, I'm never prepared for death. I'm never prepared for these people to leave my life. And, if I were to say something, I personally never kicked it with Gio's brother, obviously one-on-one. It was always family functions. And every time I met Tito, we shared a beer together. We chopped it up, we laughed, we joked with each other. He was an amazing dude, super fun. I personally really, really did like the guy a lot. And when that news kind of came, it was really shocking to all of us. But, before we move on from this podcast, Tito, I just want to say, man, like, gone too soon. And it's not goodbye forever. It's see you soon and see you later. Hopefully I could pop another fresh one with you in the future when I'm gone from this earth as well. And then we'll reunite, and you'll reunite with your whole family. But you're definitely missed. You're leaving a lot of people behind who really care about you. But rest in peace, brother. One more person as well. Doc, I'm telling you, this week has been kind of rough, and I'm not gonna cry on this podcast, but I did tear up this past week just because a lot of things have been happening. Another person, if you guys can look this man up, and everybody says great things about him. As you guys know, I've been doing business for quite a while, and throughout this journey, I don't really know what I'm doing. This is all new for us. It's an experimentation. We're working really hard on this, but sometimes we need mentorship. And then through my buddy George, I got to meet this guy named Solomon Choi. Now, Solomon actually just passed away a month ago, and I found out through the internet because of who he is and what he does. And if you guys are in New York or on the East Coast and you heard about this ice cream or soft serve spot called 16 Handles. Well, Solomon was actually the one who started that, and he created this empire, built it up and sold it. But he left a lasting impression on a lot of people's lives, specifically me. We only really had one deep conversation for a couple of hours, but he decided in those 2 hours, just for free, just to mentor me and teach me a lot of things that I didn't know about when it came to business, and the things that I should do and what I should pursue in this. And, meeting somebody like that who was willing to help me out, just for absolute free. Wasn't really asking for anything. If I wanted to, further our business together, we probably would have done something else. But, for him to take the time out of his day to drop knowledge from me kind of shows how great of a person he was. So Solomon, rest in peace. For the short time that I knew you, you're an amazing person. So once again, just like I said to Tito, it's not goodbye. It's see you later. So I'll crack a fresh one for you too. My man, it's just I don't like dealing with this. When I was younger, I actually didn't really care about my own personal life, right? So, and what I mean by that is the thought of me dying never really scared me. If I died, I was okay with it. Not to say that I was living my life recklessly, but I never felt a certain way. Like I never felt fear about dying, right? I was always okay with it, but I had a crazy fear about people that I cared about passing away. And it kind of haunted me for a while. Later on, as I got older, I started finding value in myself and value in my own life. And then I started to realize that my life was important because it was connected to other people. That if I passed away, I would leave a void in the lives of the people that I loved, especially after I got married. When you end up living your life for yourself, you do things very selfishly, right? How you behave, the things that you say, the way that you interact, it only affects you. So you just deal with the consequences and you take on that personal responsibility. But when you start involving other people in your life, how you move greatly affects them as well. And I didn't realize that till I honestly got married and I ended up in a very serious relationship with Mariel. How I conducted myself in front of her, in front of other people, like I was crazy. Like I didn't care. And then you start to see how it affects your partner, and then you start to make different moves, because now it's not like she's holding me back from anything, but now I'm just a lot more mindful about the people that I love. You guys will all experience this too. And if you're not experiencing it now, it will happen. Also too, damn, I know this is a depressing podcast, but we will get to the subject at hand. You know what? Let's just get into it. and it has to do with this as well, because I wanted to speak about this from my heart. Probably one of the hardest things that I went through when I was in my 20s was having to watch my grandmother wither away. It was very difficult for me. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, when my parents were working, when they were younger, and like every other immigrant story, right, there was always somebody who took care of us. And that person who took care of us were my grandparents. It was my grandma and my grandpa. So when my parents worked at the business, and on the weekends, she would take us to Taekwondo and just watch us, and then take us to church afterwards when my parents were busy or they had to get stuff done. And so, we were really close with our grandparents, almost to the point where my grandma and grandpa felt like another set of my parents. So what my parents couldn't do, they were there for us. Later on, my grandma got dementia and Alzheimer's, and that was fucking hard to deal with. It kind of prepared me for something that I didn't want to be prepared for, which was death, right? You kind of want these people to stay around forever. And we touched on this a little bit with my parents, but let's talk about my grandparents right now. When she had Alzheimer's and dementia, it was really fucking hard. I didn't know how to deal with it. And if you've never experienced this, it's probably I wouldn't wish this upon anybody.
Genius Brain listeners, this podcast is brought to you by Kickoff. Credit is king, my friend, and if you're trying to build your credit, well, guess what? There's no better way to do it than with Kickoff. For those of you who don't know, Kickoff is the fastest, easiest way to safely jumpstart your credit and get to those goals quicker with no credit check required. Sign up for a monthly plan in minutes and start building credit immediately for as low as $5. What I love about them the most is the auto pay to build credit while I sleep, so I never have to worry about missing a payment. They are the #1 credit building app out there for a reason, and users with credit under 600 increased their score by an average of 30 points in the first month. Join over 1 million people building credit with a Kickoff credit account today. Get your first month for $1. That's 80% off the normal price when you go to getkickoff.com/genius today. That's kickoff without the C. getkickoff.com/genius. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/genius to activate offer. Offer applies to new Kickoff customers. First month only. Subject to approval. Average impact of 30-point increase in first month based on Equifax Vantage Score 3.0. Changes for Kickoff premium customers with starting credit below 600 who made their first on-time payment between January 2021 and March 2024. Payment and credit activity outside Kickoff can have an impact on your credit. Terms and conditions may apply. Offer subject to change. Individuals' results may vary.
It's one of the most heart-wrenching things I ever went through, because instead of somebody passing away, that person physically is there, but mentally they're not. And the first time it got to me and it broke me was when it was my first year in college, and then I came back, and then on the phone, my dad was telling me that, hey, your grandma's not doing well. She has something called a dementia. And I didn't know what that was. And so we went to go see her at this community senior home where a lot of other Korean people were. And when I went to go see her, she looked absolutely fine. She was smiling. But when I came to the door, she kind of didn't really look at me. And I didn't know why, because I'm her grandson. And usually when she sees us, she gets really happy. And then my dad is sitting there. I'm sitting there. And she looks at me and she goes, who are you? And that shit fucked me like super hard. Because she was smiling, and she was like smiling at my dad. She looked at my dad. She looked over at me and she goes, who is this guy? And I didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was pretty nuts. That broke my heart. And the biggest reason why was because a few months before that, so there was, I visited them in summer, and then this was around, I believe it was like Christmas or Thanksgiving break. I can't remember which. But during the time I visited them in summer, she was telling me like, listen, I'm not going to be around for a while. And I don't know how long I have here, but just know that I love you. And, she was giving me all these words of endearment, and you don't really process that, like how, because they always say these things. And, I remember saying bye to her, just like I always do. And then when I came back, she didn't remember who I was. And it was
really fucking difficult. And this whole thing happened when she was not in this right mental state. You know, my parents were working and she ended up going into hospice care because there's a lot of things that happened. She couldn't feed herself. She had to get a tube through her stomach that was like keeping her alive, that was actually feeding her nutrients. It was a whole fucking ordeal. But while she was in there, I remember like the nurses kind of telling us that there were moments that she was very lucid, and she would wake up in the middle of the night and she would start crying because she didn't know where she was, because she got her memory back, or her long-term memory back, and she's like, where am I? Or short-term memory, and she's like, where am I? Like, where's my family? And she would like wail and cry at night, and then she would stop crying because she would forget again. And that would happen on and off a lot. So I would try to visit her as much as possible. But it just, you know, dementia, if you guys, like I said, if you've never dealt with somebody with dementia and Alzheimer's, it just gets worse and worse and worse until they just don't know who you are anymore. And dealing with that was my first, it was the first time I kind of dealt with death. And it wasn't with somebody who passed away in front of me. She was alive technically, but the person that I knew wasn't there. And I think like the hardest part about that is that when you see somebody who has this ailment or this disease, you go into like a few stages of grief, right? The first one is like you get really frustrated and you don't know why. You get angry, you get mad, and you don't know why you're so fucking mad. You don't know who you're mad at, but you'll tell this person stuff and you're repeating things over and over again, and they don't know what the fuck that they're doing, and you get frustrated at them. And it turns out that you're not really mad at them. You're mad at the fact that you're yelling at somebody who can't really understand you. So you're upset that you're losing somebody who's supposed to be here. So you just get mad. And that's all you can do. That's all you can express because you're so frustrated. So it's not that you're mad at them. You're angry and frustrated at the fact that this person that you're talking to is not the same person that they were before. And then it goes into deep sadness. Then you get into this like depression, this cycle, and eventually they pass away. Well, when my grandmother passed away, it was actually a relief for a lot of our family. And because that was the first time I got to see her at peace when she passed away. So she kind of lived for another, I believe it was like 5 years. So in the first like 3 years, it was constant crying and grief. In the last 2, I was happy that she was able to pass away. And this is the part that I really wanted to get at. And this was something that was pretty intense for me. So she has, my grandma, I'm not gonna tell you which side, but she has a daughter, right? And she's obviously an aunt of mine. During that time, she never visited her. And I never understood why, because I was like, you know, that's your mother. Why didn't you ever visit your mom? And, you know, as an adult now, I can empathize and understand that some people just can't face the fact that the person that they love has passed away or is going to pass away. And to be honest with you, that pain doesn't really go away. It never has. Anybody who was dear and close to me that has died, whenever I think of them, I feel this knot in my chest, in my heart, in my throat. It just starts to well up. It doesn't go away. It just gets better. And I think that's a good thing, right? I think it's good that you cry every now and then and that you feel that pain, because it shows that you haven't forgotten about them, which actually makes me really happy that when I speak about my grandparents or my grandmother, I know that I still love them to the point where I talk about them now and it hurts. And that pain is something that I actually am happy about, because it shows that they still have a very special place in my heart, even though it's been over 10 years now since she's gone. And I'm not going to say that it hurts the same that it did before, but it still hurts. But going back to what I was saying, like with one of my aunts, there was a huge life lesson in this. And it was, not to be repetitive about time, but if there's something that you want to say to whoever that it is, whether it's closure, whether it's
love, whether it's a hi, a hello, how are you, one day you're going to realize that when you continue to push that back, there will be a time where you won't be able to do this. And that's what happened to my aunt. She never came to see my grandmother once. When she was in hospice care, she was in there for like, what did I say, 5 years around there? I can't remember now. And during that time that she was there, the person that was taking care of her was my parents and me. I was in college and I would go stop by to check in. I was the one that spoke English, so I would check on them frequently. Well, my aunt never visited her mother. And I've forgiven her for this, right? Because I understand the pain that she went through. But it was very hard for me as a young person. I was just in my 20s. In my early 20s, I was like 21, 22. And the day that she passed away, they were carting her out of the nursing home, right? She was lifeless. She passed away. We were all crying. And then my aunt finally comes to see her mother's dead body. And then she looks at me and screams at me. And she says, "You should have done better for her. Why weren't you taking care of her better?" And man, if I could tell you the fucking rage I felt in my heart as a person who was there every day, kind of watching her wither away, man, that shit fucking set a flame in me. And you could imagine how terrible that was. Like, if it was written in a Korean drama, nothing, like, it's real. Like, it was like a K-drama moment. And I remember I looked at her and just like a couple inches from her face, I just screamed in her face. I was like, "Where the fuck were you? Where were you? She was here for years. You never visited her once." And I was screaming at her face, and she was just bawling her eyes out. And when I look back at it now, I'm actually ashamed of myself. I kind of was overwhelmed with my emotions, and I didn't look at her as a child who just lost her mother. But, I was a grandchild who lost his grandmother. And, for this podcast, for these solo podcasts, I always like to give you guys a little bit of insight. And I know, like, on the original Genius Brain podcast, I joke a lot, but these are these moments that, like I said, this week has been kind of tough. So I'm just going to tell you guys what's been on my heart, and maybe you guys can listen to this and maybe it'll help you think about the things that you're going through, which I really do hope it does.
Genius Brain listeners, this podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp, my friends. BetterHelp has been a long-time sponsor of the Genius Brain podcast because guess what? I use it, I love it, and you should too, because mental health is mental wealth. And let me ask you something. Have you ever been a part of this crew? Comparison crew? Where you're just comparing your life to other people? Well, guess what? Did you know that comparison is a thief of joy? And it's easy to envy other people's lives. And it might look like they have it all together on their Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have. So you can start living your best life. I'm living my best life. Yes, that could be you. If you've benefited from therapy, my friends, you already know BetterHelp is right there for you, because let me tell you something. My whole life, didn't know how great therapy was. And when I let therapy play its role in my life, I became a better person. And it can happen for you too, my friends. There's so many things that you've experienced that you haven't been able to process. Well, let a therapist help you navigate those thoughts and feelings. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your entire schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/genius today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/genius.
The way that I saw my aunt react in that moment made me realize that I really do have to tell the people that I care about and I love that I love them, and I really do have to be around for them. One of the things that I will say about myself is that I'm a really good friend. Look, I talk shit, I'm abrasive and stuff like that, but to the people that I care about, I'm always there for them. And this was that thing. It was a catalyst moment. I talked about this too, that I didn't have a good relationship with my parents for the longest fucking time. And for good reason too. We didn't get along for a good reason. But there was a moment, and I know a lot of people ask me this, is like, how do you, as an Asian kid who didn't get along with your parents, how did you mend your relationship? I took these experiences of watching my aunt scream at me
Like, why weren't you there for her? You could have done more. She wasn't yelling at me. She was actually yelling at herself. She was looking at me, but she was looking at her own reflection, and she was screaming at herself, why weren't you there for her? You should have been there for her. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to herself. I get it now. Well, I took that lesson and I started to apply it to my life. One thing that my mom always asked me to do was for me to call her. And I would never do it. I would always push it aside because in my mind, I'm thinking that she's going to be there forever. And I remember one time, and I was driving. I had this like white Camry, and I just moved to Los Angeles. And I called her on the phone. It was like the radio or something wasn't working. I couldn't listen to music or whatever. I wasn't in the mood, and I decided to call my mom instead. And she calls me, or she responds and it's like the sarcastic. She goes, "Oh, the prince has finally decided to call," because I would never call her, and she would only ask me to call her just once a week on Fridays. And when I finally decided to call her, we just were talking on the phone for like an hour or so, or maybe 30 minutes. I can't remember, but it was a long time, and it was a fun conversation. She wasn't lecturing me. She just wanted to see how I was doing, and I was joking with her. Well, afterwards, my dad, after she hung up, my dad called me. He goes, "Hey, what were you and your mom talking about?" And I was like, "Nothing. We were just talking about random things." And he said, "Your mom is in the best mood ever. I don't know what you said or did, but she feels great." And at that moment, I realized my mom just wanted to connect with me. She wanted to know that she was important in my life, and I would never do that for her. Why? I never understood why. I get it. Like we didn't have the best relationship when I was younger, but she loved me, and all I could do was give her a call. That kind of set this precedence for how I treated my parents. And by the way, this was a long journey. Our relationship was still damaged years after that. We would still fight, scream at each other. But this was kind of the catalyst that got me to fix my relationship with my parents. It wasn't easy. It was a bumpy road. And we're finally at a place now where we get along really well. My mom's like 70, my dad's in his 60s. And it took a while, but I finally did it. If I could give you guys this moment, and this may not apply to you. Some of you may have terrible relationships with your parents and the people around you, but if you don't, and there are moments that you think about your parents or the people that you care about, give them a call. Just be there for them. Not in a corny ass way. Some of y'all will do some corny ass shit. Like I remember, I forgot what it was, where everybody was just, it was a talk of like suicide that was huge. And I got some random calls like, "Hey man, I'm just tapping in. Want to see if your mental health is okay." And I'm looking at this this text, and I'm like, who the fuck is this? Like, bro, the fuck? I don't even like you. Don't fucking text me. No, don't be that person, all right? Don't text random people. I'm talking about people who actually you give a fuck about. Message them. Give them a call. Not some fucking, "Hey man, I just heard that the happiest people are the saddest people." Not true. Very happy. This podcast was a little sad because of all the death that's been happening. But listen, if you guys do have a moment and you listen to the story and it touched you a little bit, not like that. If it touched your heart a little bit, find the time to reach out to the people that you care about every now and then and just check in on them and say hi. There will be a moment where you won't be able to do that. I'm at a point in my life where I'm losing a lot of people that are important to me. And I can't do anything about that. And the only things now I'm left with, sadly, are the thoughts of me saying, I wish I would have just reached out and said hello before they passed, and I could have heard their voice one more time. Genius Brain will be back in the studio next week. Just wanted to talk about this. I know these solo podcasts kind of get depressing and kind of get super introspective sometimes, but thank you guys for listening. I appreciate every single one of you. Listen, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being around. I just came back from Hawaii at the Jumbi store, and I'm always amazed when fans come up to me and they come through and they support the store, and they have helped us keep alive out there. And if you guys don't know, tourism Hawaii is super down. A lot of businesses are struggling out there, but we've been killing it. We've been doing really well, and that's all thanks to the love and support of everybody who comes through. So thank you very much. If you are in Hawaii, please go to Jumbi Waikiki. Secret Society, SCRTSOCIETY is my fashion basics line. It's a passion project of mine that I've been working on for a very long time with my buddy Edric. We've been going like 6 years strong now. We're still around. Thank you very much. Love you all. I will see you all next time. Genius Brain will be back in the studios next week. And we'll go back to, we'll still do a Genius Brain solo pod every now and then, but I kind of want to go back to some laughter and some fun. So you will see me doing that next week. But Genius Brain every Sunday is at 12 p.m. For those of you who are new listeners, welcome to the podcast. Sometimes we have cries, sometimes we have laughs, we have a little bit of everything, but we will see you all next time. Love you all. Peace.